All right. Good morning. Just getting all set up here. Bright and early Monday morning, right? And check first. All right. Let's get up our all right. Get our medium out. High flow medium. The high flow medium has been a lifesaver for me. And get out our titanium white. Black. Probably the most important workhorse colors, right? I believe I'm really working through these tubes pretty good. All right, and now we've been using a lot of this cadmium yellow. So that's next up on the palette. And with palettes, I like to put things out in kind of a very specific order. It's kind of like, if you played music on a piano or played a guitar or whatever other instruments, you if someone moved your keys around every time you sat down to play a piano, it would be very confusing. And so it's a good idea to have like a logical layout for your colors. And so I like to separate my colors into what are called earth tones and chromatic colors. So earth tones are like burnt umber or raw sienna. So basically they're colors made out of dirt. And then your chromatic colors, like your bright colors, like your cadmium reds, your oranges, your yellows, your alizarin crimsons. And these tend to come from like manufactured sources. And like let's say Prussian blue, which is a great color. Very cold blue. But I might need some of this too. So I emptied out a lot of these tubes into some bottles I made for these. Let's see, I need some of that, and then for some what's it called, airbrush practice. And I did use up a tube recently, so I'm going to switch to more of these. These are your soft body acrylics. And so it just means that they're wetter. And I had gone with heavy body because I thought there was kind of more paint in it, but that's not really the case. Um, but I didn't realize that, so I always bought the heavy body, just assuming there was more pigment in it. So last time we left off, we were starting to work on the details of these guys. We're kind of working our way forward through the painting, so kind of cleaning up the background and then bringing our way forward. So first thing I like to do is I sit down looking at a picture is say, what's next? And I was thinking working the face next, so I sanded it back so it's actually smooth to the touch right now. The impasto was a little bit heavy on it, and so I was like, I need to fighting the impasto. So I pulled that back after the last one. Then I was working on these guys over here, and just looking here, I think I need to extend this little highlight down or kill it before it gets down here. And then I might just start with that just because that's sticking out to me. Usually it's a good idea to kind of take care of the first thing that kind of sticks out to you. So I keep This is my retarder mist I keep on my area here. Spray it on my palette from time to time. So, yeah. Anyway, hopefully start working towards the end. I've kind of been trying to the finalizing phase of this. So I've been trying to work up the details of things. So anyway, that's how I like to start off the painting sessions, like looking for things that so yeah, that's where I like to start is kind of just looking for that initial thing, and then I'm trying to work, back to front. All right, that feels better. All right, and some details in the bark. Monday, Monday. Good morning. There's that side, a little detail on the trees. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Good morning. Happy Monday. How's the rage? Let's see. It's kind of warming up with the background here. Good morning. Yeah, my little comic project I've done, if you count the covers, 23 pages of speculative pages. kind of looking at them thinking maybe there's a way I can make them rock a little bit more, you know, push the dynamics more. This is acrylic. Yeah, I don't know if you've been in here much since started a little acrylic adventure here, but yeah, basically, because last semester when I was teaching this illustration class, I had to use acrylic, and I'm like, I do not like acrylic paint. Like, you can't use oils because we're not set up for that in the classroom. Off gassing, blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, acrylic off gases too a little bit. You know, formaldehyde and a bunch of other gases as it dries. Like it's doing its own thing. They're like, yeah, no oils. And I'm like, all right, so we'll use acrylic. And I was like, I don't like acrylic, but I'll make it work. And I even complained about it to the students. I'm like, I'd rather do oil, but we're just not set up for it in here. I don't know why. And let's do this thing. And so I did a piece in there that I liked, and I'm like, oh well, maybe. Kind of got to thinking about my background. I'm like, well, maybe um problem wasn't so much the acrylic. Maybe the problem was me. So obviously people do good stuff with it. And I was looking at different artists with the students too, like their process. I'm like, oh, what if I tried that? Or what if I tried this? Just how I look at artists' work a lot of times. It's like, it's not so much, ooh, that's neat. It's more like, oh, maybe that's something I can try. And I was like, so I finished a piece I like, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll try some more of these. And kind of go from there. So I'm finishing up this series of like 4 or 5 pictures where I'm just kind of mixing random bits of reference together. And next up is I want to do some concept pieces a la Ralph McQuarrie style or Doug Chang. Um, for my little comic project. And so yeah, I've been spending a couple hours in the morning on these type of things for the last um for this entire semester basically. So I'm gonna finish this one up hopefully before the end of the semester. I need to figure out exactly what picture I'm gonna do for those concept type pieces. I haven't been flipping through my sketchbooks and seeing what's in there. I need to go look at my little story thumbnails and whatnot, see if maybe there's something from that I could do. But I could double them up as like potential portfolio pieces for like card games or book covers or something like that too, or even comic covers. Like Magic the Gathering or whatever book cover company, just to see what I could make happen if I do ones that are good enough. So yeah. Anyway, so I've kind of touched up some of the background stuff where I left off last time right now. And then I need to yeah. Um yeah, and I'm also just trying to back off digital stuff a lot in a lot of ways. I am going to do some digital things coming up. And I was actually just thinking about maybe starting to do some of like the roughs or planning for the comic digitally, just so it makes it a little easier to like resize things or move things around. Um, So so I've got a whole stack of illustration board to that from being at Ringling that I kind of bought up while I was there because they would give a certain amount for art supply money, and so yeah. So I figured if I spent a little bit of time every morning working on these, I'd get a nice little portfolio by the time I'm done. So yeah, I mean, like photo bashing's. I appreciate that, Bignan and Co. Yeah, photo bashing's been a big thing especially in concept art for a long time. Um, I'm sort of doing that here to a certain degree because I basically have a bunch of different references I've collected and I've got up in front of me on my iPad. So I've got the model's pose, some outfits, I've got some trees, but and then some background images, but I'm making my own lighting and a bunch of other things in here too. So, um, but photo bashing is a little bit different. I get why people photo bash, especially for like concept art. Um, so it's a speed thing, and one of the kind of the changes I've been talking to some people about this, but I think one of the harmful changes to concept art is this idea that they want to see the finished product in the concept art. So historically, if they had like Mobius or even like Sid Mead or different concept artists working on a project, historically, the point was not to show them exactly what the final film or frame on the film would look like. The point was to inspire them. And there's definitely been a big shift from that to trying to show the exact look at the very end in the concept art as a way of saving money. But I think it's actually gotten in the way because obviously films are not cheaper. Like they've gotten more expensive, or games or whatever. And um yeah. I mean even H.R. Geiger, right? Like he's they didn't do it exactly like he was doing, right? Because he was using airbrushes a lot. I've been exploring too. I actually mixed a bunch of acrylics into airbrush type paint the other day. I want to start using that, not with this one, but in future things. Try and see how much I can do with the airbrush before I jump into the hand painting stuff. Thought about using it for like toning. The reason I actually wanted to use it was for spattering, because you set like a really low air pressure on it, and you can spatter with it. Um, but I think well, it'd be good for maybe just like gray tones with the ink, or like softening some of the lights back or whatever. You can do all that digitally, but I think there's something about doing it analog that I like the idea of more. But and yeah, but with photo batching, there's a couple different types, and they kind of blend together a little bit. But What I liked was there's concept artist who's pretty well known because of his educational materials, especially is Feng Zhu. And he's someone I've been aware of since I was a student, and he's got like a whole YouTube channel of tutorials. But the way he does photo bashing, it's not so much that he's trying to recreate or use the photos as a way of adding information. So, like, some people they'll do it like, I want a tree here, or a bush here, or a person, or a building there. And and the way that he uses it, at least in his videos more often than not, is to kind of add textural information inside of a space. So he might throw something into the space that is not has nothing to do with what it really is, but it adds kind of a lot of texture in there, and I do like that. Like, there's actually a way of doing photo transfers with acrylic paint, which I haven't tried yet, which I'm kind of interested in trying, where you kind of get a printout, you get it super wet with acrylic matte media and put it down, and it transfers the ink to the surface. And people do that with acrylic all the time to like do collages and things like that. But I wonder kind of that as a process for kind of adding texture, like a digital approach. So, um, well, yeah, it's like if you look at even older stuff like Todd McFarlane, one of the things that he did with like New York City would he would photocopy, a photograph of New York skyline, often from pictures he didn't actually own, and then they would stick that in the background, like this roughed up photocopied version of the skyline. It was basically photo bashing. Um, so there's definitely a big history of doing that. Like I want to make some 3D sets. I don't plan on tracing them, but I like what um, Sean Gordon Murphy said about that because he used a 3D model for the motorcycle in his punk rock Jesus book, and he didn't trace it, but he would put it up on take shots of it different angles to reference to draw from. And he actually had somebody else build it, so he actually commissioned an artist to build the 3D model for him in SketchUp, which I thought was interesting. The other reason I want to do 3D is mostly just because I want to learn it better. It's always been this thing in my brain where like I've gone through art periods where I've used it or liked it and learned it pretty deeply, and then kind of backed off of it for a long time, and then go back in. And I feel like I'm kind of getting to a point with Blender where I'm pretty comfortable with how it works and why it works the way it does, and all that good stuff. So, um, all right, let's see. Working on our creatures now, I think. So, um, yeah, well, I think usually the 4.99 ones tend to be like the larger ones, right? Um, I think the big reason why they got so expensive partially is just the advertising. Smaller print runs, right? So they're not selling as many copies like they did back when they were, a buck 75. Inflation too, but it's more to do with the volume um, of sales. And then the fact that there's no not really there is advertising, but it's just for themselves. Like you open up a Marvel book and it's all Marvel advertising or Disney advertising inside. You don't see ads for like Oreo cookies or Mr. Atlas or whatever, X-ray glasses and things like that in there anymore. And part of that's because the audience has changed. Part of because the audience has changed, right? So there's no kids reading like little kids aren't like 12 isn't going into the comic shop to pick up Bone or the Max or whatever. It's a bunch of old guys like my age and a little bit younger or older going in there. So I mean, I do see like some younger people in mine on because I go in Wednesday, around lunch. And I'll sometimes see like student age because there's a bunch of university stuff going on downtown, and but that's a big problem is that demographic change, and I don't like manga's doing really well, so they need to bring comics back, but they're just I don't know if they're just not willing to do what they need to do, or if they're not aware of it, or they don't care because they're owned by larger corporations now, rather than having to make it on their own, so they can kind of hide a little bit. It's like, I was only reading a couple of Marvel books. One was that Punisher series with Dan Panosian, which was, beautifully drawn. And it just finished. It's a little mini series. And then the this Incredible Hulk stuff that Nick Klein is illustrating for the most part. Apparently he's not doing much on the current series. He's getting ready, geared up for the follow-up series. But it's basically the Hulk. If the Hulk was his actual Hulk is an elder god, like from a Lovecraftian ancient era, and he kind of manifests, and that's why he's inside of Banner, or was. He gets possessed by another elder god at the end of the last series that they did. So I'd like to actually pick up the paper versions of those sometime. I don't think they're that expensive to get, as a series. So, um, but yeah, they're definitely, so that's a big part of the reason why they cost so much is that low print runs and lack of advertising. Yeah, it's a pretty wild run. It's pretty brutal. They were actually running two Punisher series at the same time for some reason. The other one, and they both kind of had somewhat similar, at least on the surface, plots. So one was one where the Kingpin put like a device in his head where he had to obey the Kingpin, and that wasn't the Dan Panosian one. The other one was he got drugged and became a tool of the cartel. I'm like, these are kind of the same story. I've got it right over here. Um, let's see, where are you, Punisher? But I thought it was really weird that you know, it might start too far in the back. There it is. No, that's not it. Okay, there's the third one, huh? Should check for that. Yeah, move it to the back already. There it is. But it's like I think 4 or 5 issues, and $4.99, right? Apparently, it's kind of set in the future or something like that. I don't really care. Like it's I just care that it's looks great, but you know So it's like, look at that. That doesn't look like traced, photostatted, right? Look at that. That's a hand-drawn car and a hand-drawn alleyway. I mean, they might have put the screen tone on there with the computer, but that's about it. But yeah, it's some pretty good brutal stuff in here. But yeah, it's all out, so you might be able to like grab it on like eBay as a collection for like super cheap or something. I didn't see it as being like a collectible book. Obviously, it's just a story. So I don't think it's probably done anything. So yeah, you can tell he's obviously he's got reference, but he's not tracing it. It's I don't. The thing is, like, I think tracing can work. It's just that you have to be really good about it. Like, there's a popular illustrator. Well, he's not kind of in the vogue as much anymore as he used to be. But Greg Manchester, I think he's probably more retired these days than anything. But he wanted to do a class. I saw him do a demo once. And he's like, I want to do a class on like tracing intelligently. Um, but yeah, so it's Palmiotti's writing, and then it's Panosian doing the art, the interior stuff. So yeah, but I think there's a lot of really good stuff going on in comics these days. I think there's definitely good stuff. I think Marvel's not doing that great for the most part, but Image has got a ton of great stuff, and DC's doing some interesting things. I'm not like the biggest absolute Batman fan. I think I would almost rather see that book as like an indie book. Like, it's just why would why give DC like your biggest idea like that? Um, Unless you've worked out like a really great deal for yourself and your artists. I did pick up the first trade paperback recently, and then also picked up the Eric Canetti issues that he just did with their version of what's her face, Plant Girl. Plant Girl, that's her name, right? Um, so, but yeah, they're kind of ridiculously expensive. Like they shouldn't cost that much. Like they're not. I don't even think. Yeah, I think it's just again small print runs, lack of advertising have driven up costs. Because like Marvel's famous for like not paying very well these days. Um, yeah, well they just think it's a whole different continuity from the main thing. And I picked it up mostly because I wanted to look at Dragota's storytelling, like that trade paperback. Um, like I generally just like don't like multiverse type projects anyway. So I might pick up the some of these, but I'm not buying to like collect, like to make a collection, right, kind of thing. I like to buy them for the stories. Yeah. Though I would say the Ghost Machine stuff that Jeff Johns has organized, like they're printing on like really nice paper, and the covers are like cardstock almost. Like it's a pretty good product as far as like how they've got it set up. Um, um, so yeah, like there's no reason for them to be that expensive. But I think part of it, again, like the demographic of who the collectors are has changed significantly, and that was a big mistake letting that happen. So they basically handed the whole market over to manga when, especially when they started like just making it confusing to read comics, right? So like there's all these different, like why is there two different Punisher series running at the same time? Um, that are very similar to each other. Why is there, at least superficially, they're probably different on the inside. The other one was actually red band, so it was like it's in a poly bag. I accidentally bought the first issue. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but I assumed it was the same series that I was anticipating, which was this Dan Panosian thing I'd seen him working on, and so I bought that, assuming it was that one. And so, but I only picked up the first issue. But the other ones are all polybag because they're like extra violent or something, which is fine, you know. Um, yeah, so I think there's just a lot of people there that need to get their ducks in a row. But again, tons of great stuff going on with Image. Like Escape is really really good. Um, Even though it's like animals in World War II. Rick Remender writing it. There's a new Power series that's over in Dark Horse now, I guess. Um, which I always liked the original ones. I didn't know there'd been like a series not too long ago. Um, I remember picking it up and like, oh, these people like they talk different. It's like a very different way of writing dialogue. But there's some series I'd like to read, but I'm so far behind on them. I'm just gonna wait for library editions. Like something to Killing the Children is really really good, but I'm just picking up the big heavy uh, library versions. Um, rather than going issue to issue on it, just because I'm already so far. They're like 45 issues in or something. So I'm just like, I'll just pick up these library versions. Yeah. So yeah, there's I have them right behind me, but Let's see. They're just behind me. Um, yeah, so this is the library edition. I got it on Amazon. Like I dropped it sometime. Oh well. But there's cool stuff in here. Definitely definitely recommend. Yeah, there's two of these anyway. These big library versions. And so yeah, there's a bunch of series like that where I know it's like a one type series. I mean, like I don't know how long. And the thing with the other thing with something killing the children is I don't think the issues come out very often. I think there's one that just came out. I think the last one came out like in December or something like that. So they're pretty slow coming out, which is you think with the sketchy style the artist is doing that they'd be able to work a little faster. Um, So I'm like, how much longer till we get enough issues for the next library version? It's like, and they don't care about that. They're when they do, but that's like secondary. But that was the Boom series. It was a pretty terrifying series that Garth Ennis did. I picked up, and it's kind of like what if, because during the Biden presidency, he was really pushing um, kind of really pushing Russia, right? So it's really like aggravating them even before they did the invasion. I think is always a really bad idea. Um, but uh, yeah, this book's basically what if things actually got to the point where the nukes went off, and it's about these kind of group of friends from New York City and kind of the different things they do to try to escape the fallout of the bombs. And actually, it's funny. The main character, he kind of in some ways sounds like me, like it's like, well, let's see things from their point of view, kind of person, because that's what I like. That's what I try to do. Not so much what I like to do, but it's what I try to do is like, well, what if, we looked at it from Putin's point of view? Because, or like, what are things that we should be doing to prevent it, not trying to get them to prevent it or something like that? Like, what are we doing? It's like, I'm the same way in my department where, like, people are complaining about a problem with the students or the school or whatever. I'm like, well, if there's like this universal problem with students that we see, like maybe that's our fault. If it's universal, if it's just like one or two students or a handful of them or whatever, a small group, who have a lot of students, um, if there's some kind of universal issue we're seeing with like dropping quality or lack of work ethic or whatever, whatever specific thing, maybe that's something that we could do. There may be something we could do about it. Yeah. Well, I think one of the big issues that was kind of left over in Russia that the United States was partially at fault was is when the Soviet Union collapsed, is the West kind of went in and just like kicked them in the face and isolated Russia. So rather than bringing Russia into the international community, they pushed them out. I'm sure they had justifications at the time. The United States, of course, main justification was, they didn't want to lose hegemony. But we didn't really bring Russia into the West. We pushed them back, and we abused the opportunity that was there to kind of reintegrate them back in. And the hands we offered out were ones that would have violated their sovereignty. We wanted control over them rather than seeing them as like a common ally or equal partner in things. And so that has not ever been forgotten inside of Russia. And yeah, and so because the thing is we are a lot of our economy. I don't think it's really even most of it, but a lot of it is definitely based around that. Um, um, what was I about to say? But basically, there's lots of opportunities to avoid the current relationship, and there's a lot of money being made by American weapons manufacturers that goes away if we lose out on enemies. Um, it's like there was a blockade of Yemen by, um, it's like the poorest country in the Middle East is Yemen, and there's a blockade run by the Saudis that we were supporting during the Obama era that basically was causing mass starvation, cholera, a lack of clean water. It was just like it really is an attempted genocide, is what it was. And the United States was supporting it during the Obama era. People don't complain about that for some reason very much, but that was a real thing. And when asked about it, one of the few times he was asked about it, he said we were doing it to appease the Saudis. It's like we have no problem working with quote unquote bad people, like the United States doesn't. I do, but the government doesn't. Um, and then when Trump continued the support of that when he became president the first time, they asked him about it, and he said they buy a lot of planes from us. And so I think that's one of the big reasons for kind of maintaining these antagonistic relationships is the military industrial complex. There's a lot of people making a lot of money and they don't care. As long as the spice flows, right? And that's where the we call the bipartisan uh, in, uh, foreign policy consensus. So, but that's a lot of what we're seeing going on. Like, yeah, I'm sure like weapons manufacturers are looking at what's going on in the Middle East right now, and they're like, "Oh, look at all this. We have to resell all of our product back to the United States again, using up all these weapons." And Trump's promising, huge um, budgets for the military, and all that really translates into is buying weapons. Um, and that's what it's about. It has nothing to do with saving the Iranian people or whatever. Um, it's easier to control the outcome of investor funds if you just blow things up, right? Rather than trying to do trade deals with other countries and sell them useful and interesting and life affirming widgets, right? Um, so that's That's the thing with comics too, is like inconsistency. Like especially the major ones where like they'll get like a really great artist initially and then they don't stick with the book. You know, people like the mangas because they're, you know, long form storytelling, but there's like a beginning and an end too. So like you can buy a whole collection of stuff, read a whole. So yeah, well, it's like you know we had that North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, right? But all it was it wasn't free trade; it was just controlled trade by the people in power. Um, but so that's what's you know that's the whole truth of really what's going on in the background. Yeah. So I think that's the nice thing I knew about this Punisher series, as I knew Panosian was doing the whole thing. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. Like, but like the new Hulk series, the Infernal Hulk, like Nick Klein's only doing some of the issues now. Like he did the initial ones, and he's been doing parts of them. He's not doing like the whole thing, and that's kind of annoying. Where in the last series, like he did pretty much the whole thing, I think. Um, and you know that makes a big difference. He's doing some really insane artwork for it too. Like it's really great body horror stuff, and you know things that you would think would be really great in the Hulk. Um, yeah, because you don't. I think part of it is you know again the collapse of the sales, so the smaller sales numbers, it means less royalties. So it's like I said when I was a kid growing up, I was like I backed off comics because I found out how little comic artists got paid per page. So I'm like, you can't make a living off of that. You know, it's like 150 bucks a page or something drawing the X-Men, and I didn't realize those were advances on royalties. So I just assumed they just got paid what they got paid. I didn't know anything about how publishing actually worked. I've been talking to my students a lot about this in my classes, pointing out to them that you know if they can get into relationships where they get royalties on sales in the print markets, like because a lot of them focus heavy on doing concept art, and I don't think you know I think concept art is good, but I think it's an over uh, it's an inflated market where there's way too many people in it, and oh, yeah, okay, right there. So I've been supposed to be working on stuff I didn't finish last time, but but oh yeah, I thought there was something with him. I thought it was him with like putting something in a window, like supposedly anti-Semitic or something. But he's not like a native English speaker either, so um. All right, let's get this face cleaned up. I sanded back this face last time, so it was a little too much impasto on it. So I wet sanded it with some super slick sandpaper. People used to freak out at me when I would do that wet sanding process, like with oil paint or something like that. They're like, "You're putting all this toxic dust into the air," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's." It was the weirdest reaction I'd get from people where they were like, "You're doing this thing and it's going to be dangerous," and I'm like, "No, it won't. It's wet. Just wipe it off with a rag." We have weird reaction, especially when it comes to oil paint. It's like, don't eat it. Work in a ventilated space, and don't leave your rags, oily rags in an enclosed box where they'll explode. Throw them outside. You'll be fine. Don't eat your art supplies. It's generally good advice as it is. Don't put your brush in your mouth. Like even this, I'm using cadmiums here, and cadmiums are really toxic. Don't put it in your mouth. But yeah, I get weird responses from people when I would do the wet sanding thing. But I put my other acrylic pieces up on my website that I like. And I was digging through my old sketchbook for my early Bramble stuff, and I'm like, oh, I need to scan this stuff in. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're not really. I mean, it's only toxic if you are stupid about it. Like, it's not dangerous. And some people are more chemically sensitive, right? Like, so like people like get allergies really easy or whatever, and some people like they can't handle oil paint or any paint. But people that like can't really hold charcoal or certain kinds of plants or whatever too. Um, so yeah, so I kind of get annoyed with some of these weird attitudes I run into with art supplies, where it's like, don't eat your paint. If you know you're chemically sensitive, then maybe you don't do the oil class or you don't do this or whatever. That's fine. But I don't think that should put a whole policy on an art department, you know. Yeah, but yeah, smoothing out this paint makes it a lot easier to paint the details on here. So yeah, don't eat your crowns, right? Yeah, I did a big update on my personal my illustration website. They've changed my website building software, updated it so it's better, but there is a learning curve. And so when I got COVID a couple weeks ago, I spent a lot of time during that week sorting that out, and but it's not like fully integrated in every part of the website yet. They're kind of gradually doing it. So, but I've went through and like swapped out all the stuff that I could to improve it and revived certain aspects of the site. Yeah. I don't know anything about jewelry making. I've heard it's an interesting process, but yeah, the let's see. Let's see. Yeah. So, but I think there's just like there's a lot of really good stuff going on in comics at the moment, and it's good to see. There's actually been some weird kind of ones that have like sold out and like doing really well on as like speculative pieces for some reason. So one is Brett Bean's Dork, D''ORC, and then there was one called White Skies. It's like Walking Dead, but there's ghosts instead walking around. Um, and I looked at that one when it came out. I was like, it's okay. And then apparently, like, it's just like I didn't pick it up, but apparently it's first issue's like sold out like crazy, and it's like $50 to buy it on eBay or whatever for now. It's a little weird. I'm not sure what the cause of that one is. It's like I mean, it looks fine. Like I don't have any complaints. I don't get why that one is. Um, and the Brett Bean book, I think people it seems like they overordered because I remember when it was in there. I looked at it briefly in the shop, and I was like, nah. But apparently but they had like two stacks of them. It's like 50 copies or 60 copies in my local shop, which I thought was weird. Maybe when I see that, I should just grab one these days. But I'm like, I don't want to. I don't really buy the anticipation of selling in the future. Like, I'm not really bring that into my purchase choice. But yeah, so there's a couple of things like that that have like sold out really well, just like in the last couple of months, which is really unusual. So let's get these shadows back up. So small spaces. I probably actually need to get a newer brush. I've got some. I bought like a few of these at this size. Hmm. So yeah, but it's definitely a ton of good stuff going on. I really like a lot of what I've been picking up. There's some new Vertigo pieces that are really good. Um, Bleeding Hearts. It's about a zombie who's kind of getting his mind back. His heart is growing back, basically. That's kind of an interesting kind of concept there. Let's see. So I think there's a lot of really good stuff going on in terms of those. A lot of craziness in the world, but a lot of good stuff going on other places. So yeah, I'm excited about what's going on. In spite of the madness of everything. So yeah, that's what's going on. All right, let's see. Oof. Let's see. How you doing? Is your foot bothering you? You've been licking your foot today. Did you step on something? Let's see, that needs to go back further. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Alright, how we do? Let's see. This needs to get more of this angle and up, out. Go. Good morning. Good morning, people popping in. Hour and a half. Okay, we've got kind of 30 minutes or so for today. So I was having a good time with the lawnmower out there. There's my dog. Heavy sigh. My dog. Let's see. Where are my reading glasses at? We're going to work on those eyes, right? These smaller features. There we go. Now I can see it. All right. So let's get some water on. A little bit of water on here to make things easier to move around. morning. I got to switch to my reading glasses to get some of these details in there. Good morning. All right, let's see. Some opacity in that shadow. All right, how are we doing, everybody? Pop it in. I see. Oh, also, Shroud House. There's a new episode of Rob's podcast, and he is like butthurt about something. It's pretty entertaining. Like Kurt Busiek not wanting to admit he wrote a Youngblood story or something. It's just kind of funny. Yeah, I think he's doing these like twice a week. The subject's supposed to be like Todd McFarlane's origins to a certain degree. And he's finally getting to it. Which is kind of funny. All right, flatten out these. But I always enjoy it's like him talking about the background stuff or his background business interests. Like I don't, you know, I want to rag on him, but I like have no interest in like picking up his books. Um, but it's interesting to hear him talking about trends and things like that. I think so. But yeah, he wrote some Youngblood stuff and plotted some Youngblood stuff, but he doesn't ever admit to it. Like he says he didn't do it, but Life was like, well, you have my, you cashed my checks. I've got your stuff right here. Um, it's like I know like people like to rag on Liefeld, but you know he had a big impact on things and still does to a certain degree, and there's real reasons for it. It's not that he's above criticism or anything, but he's still, one of the people that made a big difference. Yeah. He actually, I think he talked about that one of his recent episodes, how that happened. Like, there was like some call for talent on like a commercial on TV or something, and his wife had him call in. They were looking for people with like interesting jobs to have as their models or something, and so his wife made him, had him call them, according to the story there. It's like they went to him. I guess it was a call for talent or something. And his wife said, "Hey, we should do that." Yeah. So that's apparently how that happened. Um, but it's interesting to kind of listen to his podcast. He usually goes for about an hour. Sometimes too. He had a long conversation with Robert Kirkman recently that I thought was interesting. Um, so um, uh, yeah. So that was I think last week. Spent like 2 hours talking to Robert Kirkman. So I thought that was interesting because Kirkman's an interesting case where he's someone who's really kind of locked in the business model of comics in a big way. So yeah, yeah, definitely check out the that interview or that discussion he had with Kirkman. I think Kirkman's pushed and he's got a new series. Actually, this might be of interest to you. Kirkman's doing a new series. I can't remember what it's called. It's coming out, I think, in June or July. My dog got something on his feet. It seems like they're bothering him today. He's been licking his feet today, which he doesn't ever do. Um, I'll have to take a look when we get done. He's been licking them. Could just be the time of year too, but I forget what it's called, but it's basically he's calling it kind of X-Men times Walking Dead. So if you were to take like kind of the desperate situation of Walking Dead and mix it with the X-Men, that's what you get. And I think part of the reason why he's doing this is just kind of to show up Marvel. Um, and it it's featuring a whole bunch of like post Jim Lee X-Men artists. So I think Adam Kubert's on it. There's Dave Finch is going to be doing some of it. I guess he's got them locked in for different phases of it. Um, and that's coming out this summer. And so it's like he's locked in like all of these big names. on it. And so I guess that's what Dave Finch is doing for him after this, because this Skin Breaker series, it's got one issue left. It's not the best thing ever, and I think if like the colors are a lot in it. It's supposed to be an alien planet, so everything's like they're trying to make them, I think, not look like Avatar, so they're not putting hardly any blue in the book. Like it's not Avatar. Can't be blue. Everything's orange. See, it's not Avatar. Um, but I've been picking up like their supersized ones just to look at the detail. Right there for time. Hour 49. All right. I'll spend a lot of time like on the face and the hands areas, uh, usually in these. It's weird because I put my glasses on, like I can see a lot more of the detail. Now my eyes go blurry when I take them off. But I'll put these reading glasses on for these like drawing the face, especially getting into the features in the eyes and things like. But yeah, but I like how the lore he's playing. Like, yeah, he had a conversation with Will Portatio recently, and with another one with Jim Valentino, and they're just like it's some old school dirt they're digging up there, talking about like how Marvel dealt with them after they had left and their attitude when they were leaving, and a bunch of that stuff. Um, so it was interesting, kind of hearing their perspective on what was going on back then. Yeah, I mean he had apparently his first run on was it Silverhawk or whatever. I have it somewhere. The that foil black and foil cover. Um, but probably that sold really well. Yeah, Shadowhawk. There's the word. Something. It's silver on the cover, so you know. I've got it somewhere. I remember picking that up when it came out. But I think about the image, like especially the early days image, like I always liked the story of people striking out on their own and doing big things on their own, away from larger structures and things like that. So I was all in on that because I'm like, oh, I always like those kinds of stories. Um, yeah, so there's been a number of episodes out of him recently that I think are definitely worth a listen if you want to like get into that early lore. But he's been talking to them about like the early meetings they had and how they kind of brought people in and who they brought in and why and how they approached people. Um, I think it's pretty wild because like Rob was still in his like early mid 20s at that point. Like he wasn't like a seasoned old school guy like Valentino was at the time. Because Valentino was like the old man of the group, the initial group anyway. There, that's start with better. Um, but yeah, definitely worth checking. I've thought about going back and listening to him again just because I remember like being really excited about the intent of what was going on, and I was just all about the art. Back then, that's all I really cared about. So I really wish I could figure out. There's some box of comics somewhere that I have that's missing because it's like it's random stuff that I don't have. That's like that I should have. You know, like issues of a series or something. And I'm like, where is this box? I don't understand like where this box is. Um, but like it's not at my mom's house. I've dug through everything in her basement, unless she's hiding it somewhere in the house for later. Not that she would want it now. She wants everything out. Yeah, yeah. So, but I was really excited about that early image stuff. I think I think I really liked was it Super Patriot, the mini series. I really liked that one. 'Cause it had like barely any words, but I remember like it was just like this really great visual storytelling in there. I like the lettering too in it. Yeah, I have the Trencher stuff. I don't know where it is. I bought it. I remember like emulating the style because I thought it was so like a unique. I had like this idea for a comic book that I was trying to do at that point. I was hoping my local comic shop would trade me my illustrations for the for free comics or something. They said no, but they would put it up in the store if I wanted. I'm like, no. But I have those somewhere. Like, but I can't find them. So you could probably buy them. They're probably not that expensive. Um, but I'd like to figure out where it's at. Just like annoying that I don't know where it is. So so yeah, I remember I remember him being like dead or something. I can't remember the exact what the story of Trencher was. I just really like the art style of the play with shape. I tried to get a student into it last couple of years ago who was doing something somewhat similar, and I was like, oh, you should look at Trencher and Keith Giffen, Trencher, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. Um, you know, can lead a horse to water, etc. But yeah, but I've been enjoying this. It's funny because like there's a couple of guys I work with who are like indie comic guys at my school that teach part time, and I mentioned Rob Liefeld to them, and their faces just like curdle up all the time. It's pretty funny. Like, yeah. They're always telling me that they don't read any superhero mainstream comics. I'm like, well, that's fine, but I don't know. I think it's all good. Yeah, I remember he was dead or something. I do remember that part, but I don't remember like what like the point of the story was. Um, um, but so um, there we go. Face is looking better. It's not perfect, but definitely moving forward. Yeah. Well, it's like I don't remember much about Shadowhawk other than he was like kind of like Batman, kind of. That was my impression of him. But some kind of or like a what's his face, like a Daredevil type character, street level hero or something. That's all I remember about him. I think I only bought the first issue or two. I mean, I had limited, much more limited funds as a teenager, so whatever I got from my grocery store gig. Okay. Do I remove bristles? I don't. This was actually worn down quite a bit. I probably should get a new one. The problem with these are synthetics. So you usually use synthetics with acrylic. They tend to handle it better, and then plus natural hair brushes like using a Kolinsky or something is really expensive to have it get damaged by drying acrylic paint. But they tend to like bend a little bit over time, and so this is definitely lost hairs. Like if I were to go grab a new one out of the same size 1. Let's see. I bought a handful of these well, a couple months ago. Let's see, where are you at here? There's number 1. So here's one I haven't used, and then here's one that I have. I've thought about switching over, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet, to a new one. But you can see how it's all kind of warped a little bit. Oh, okay. AIDS stuff, huh? Yeah, I don't remember what that one was about specifically because I didn't follow it. Um, Here, set up for next time since we're gone over the 2 hour limit just now. So that's my calling card to move on to other things today. But interesting all the details I see when I zoom in like this with these reading glasses because I sort of saw them on my website because the scan of the image is pretty large. Though I don't think they show up that big when they're on the site. Unless I'm using it as like a background for something. So, yeah, but I think next time I'll be able to jump more into finishing the main parts of the figure, especially the head, the hands. There's one hand down there, a hand over here. Get this mostly done and spend a lot of time on the figure. A lot of this stuff's a lot easier to do. Let's maybe fix some of the drawing up here a little bit, but the rest of it should be fairly straightforward once I kind of knock those main parts out. So, yeah, I'm going to call it there. Thanks for coming in, and hope you enjoy your day at work in Baston.